And then, so on the phone, and where are you at?
I'm in Sitka right now, but I'm usually stationed in Metlakatla. So I'm always in Metlakatla.
Oh, wow.
Except today, I'm in Sitka.
Awesome. And then we have Yakutat and Ketchikan, is that right?
Yes.
Did I miss anybody? Okay. So for those of you on the phone, there's a website. Did you guys get the link to the handout that we're going to use?
Yes, the book.
Yeah. Okay, it's called the Beginning Tlingit Workbook, and we're going to work through that tonight. But maybe since it was brought up, we'll do introductions once again, so we can get there. And let me just grab a pen so I can make some notes.
Did you want me to start?
I guess I don't have. We got a pen.
How do you log in on the Google Hangout to do it on the headset?
Yeah, so with Google Hangouts, the way it works is we have to sort of find each other and be in each other's circles. So you can find me under Lance Twitchell or Twinave. You can spell it with the underline. And then I'll add you to the class list, and you get an invite to it, and then you just log on through Google through your phone. I'm not sure what it looks like on the other end.
What's the answer the hotels out here?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Oh, no, nothing. I'm just talking to my husband.
Oh. You get like
so I got added to the circle on there where it shows the classes and such. Do I have to go to your page to log on there?
Oops. We have two windows. Let me find where I need to be, then I should have an answer.
Ooh.
So do you see? There should be an option to, or what is your you should be able to add me to your circles. Do you see that option?
Yes, I added you to the circle here.
Okay.
I think I found it. I think I have to log on to your name or click on your name there.
Uh-huh. Are you able to watch us?
No, not yet. It's not letting me log on there.
What is
I'm actually on campus and it's the computer system that's not allowing me to log on.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we could try it next time. We'll just stay on the phone this time.
You can watch it live on YouTube.
Yeah, you should be able to watch it live on YouTube as well.
You just can't get on the website.
Oh, I see. Can't hear it.
But if it's on the phone too, it's fine.
Okay. So let's start in Sitka. Why don't you just give us your introduction and we'll listen.
Oh, me. Okay. So I haven't did my introduction for a long time, but I'm gonna do what I remember. I was taught by somebody who was really old, and there was a beginning line that she always told me to say. It was like, please excuse me for my learning, but I'll start. So Blake Aina Christina Brendable, you have to stop. Susanna Hatsiti Nishayari Aya Hat Blake Chana Aya Hat Metlakatla Kwandak Aya Hat Gunam Doikum Robe of Arrows Aya. I forgot. Nakhanhigi Gunashis Aya. Oh, I forgot the last word. But my name is Christina. My name is Christina Brandable. I am of the Tsimshian people. My clan is the Wakibu. I am also a daughter of Anishinaabe people. My grandfather is white. I come from Metlakatla, and our clan originally is from Gunakdois, and we are from the Robodero's house, and we are the Gishwitwada clan. But in Metlakatla, I am Wakibu still. Thank you for listening, and excuse anything I interrupted. I'm a little rusty.
It's a beginning Tlingit class, it's okay. Ta'ateye chefna'uz, a lot of times they say the first part. If you need to, you don't need it here because it's just, this is where we learn. Do you have a Tlingit name or a Tsimshian name?
I don't have Shemelkic's name. There's a lot that happens in Metlakatla, so, there's just still a big divide, and we haven't even able to access the Book of Names even after 128 years of existence. So we're slowly building up that, but no, I don't have a Tlingit name, nor do I have a Shemelkic name.
Okay. Well, for this class, you can go through the Tlingit dictionary and then sort of pick something as a nickname, which is the process I picked up from one of my teachers and my auntie Florence Shapely. And the intent of this class is that's what we'll refer to you as. And if you wanted to sort of craft something, we could work together and figure something out as well. So it's up to you.
Okay.
I do hold veto power. I've had Chuk Chun. I've let that request go through. I had something like beer drinker or something, and I think I vetoed that one. So but it's negotiable. If it's something you're dying to have, then we can talk. We can allow. But
sounds good. I'll look.
Yeah, just look through, and we'll come up with something. We don't have class on Monday, so by next Wednesday we'll have something for you.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so now we'll kick it a little bit north to Yakutat. You guys want to do introductions for us?
Oh, hi, it's Mary. Yandis Tla Yuchat Duazal, Leika Chenach Mary Yuchat Duazal, Yesh Nachat Satis, Shuknachadi Ayachat, Hitdach Ayachat, Washkwanyari Ayachat, Ach La Du Sai Kushchen, Ach Ish Du Sai Sichwit, Late Dutch Khan Ayachat, Ach Ish Du Ish Hat Tekwedi, Ach Kik Hat, Ach Kla Yinanach, Robert Ka Ushki Kla, Ach Kik Hat, Ach Ish Yinanach, Robert Ka Renona, Yakda Kwan Ayachat, Yakda Yechat.
Sheesh.
Yake Khwatini Ku Yuchat Duasal Leka Khina Kem Uller Yuchat Duasal Yek Nachat Sati Kanekwan Ayachat Sis Hitdach Ayachat Armenian Hispanic Yeti Ayachat Akhla Dusai Gina Polanco
Ish Du Sai, David Polanco. Hispanic, Yichkan Ayachat. Ish Du Ish Has, Hispanic. Keith Has, Akhladi, Marlene, Victor Armendariz.
Luis and Paul Ophelia Polanco. New Mexico, Juan Ayachat. Yao Dot Yechat Yeti.
Yakecha. And we can see you guys.
Hi!
Yakeya Satini.
We weren't sure if it was working or not.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to hang up the phone then.
Okay. Yakecha. Kitchan, Ketchikan. Teresa, are you on? Oh, Ketchikan?
I'm sorry, I forgot my intro.
That's okay. You can
It's been a
just,
while.
you could do, there's no qualifications for this. It's just a little bit of getting to know each other. So you can tell us in English, if you have a Tlingit name and clan and your experience with the language a little bit.
Well, my Tlingit name is Gashtin. I'm Sonia Juan Mechadi from Saxon K-pop area. I'm a child of the Nanya Ai, and I don't have much experience with the Tlingit language except for growing up, but it's been years since I've been exposed to it fluently. And I lived in Ketchikan most of my life, and I mostly heard it from my father's side, which is northern dialect rather than the Sonia Juan dialect.
Okay. Gynnydd Chish, Yeilt Uchtla, Yeit Toaha. Gewene?
You want me to do an introduction?
Yeah.
Okay. Tla ay achsai Tleika Kenach Colleen. Kostelish Kwan Ka Kukitan na Chatsati. Dachlewedi Yadi. Kadusta Ye Dusagan Ach Ka Kagane Ye Dusagan Ach Du Tlak. Dachlewedi Yadi. Kwanlin Ye Chat Yati. Gunosh
Yekecha, Gynnydd Chish. Now in the room.
Yukeyuch Setinim, Gunchish Haji Adi, Chaukukla Yuchadusak, Dakdintan Nachatsati, Yesh Kudi Hit Ayaha Nakahidi, Chukanidi Yadi Chatsati, Ach Ish Salka Yedusak, Ach Shikusha Kasut Yedusagan. Khunakau ayakhat Shangukedi Kagwantan Dachkhan ayakhat Wushkitan ayakh Daknuku Kitchunk Ye Khat Kuzati Chish
Inupiak Einach Sumin Kuchat Duasak Inupiak Had Sputskhan Ayachat Sputskhan Gishpudwada Nachat City Nislut Suduasak Hat Nakhidi Ginadoix Metlakatla Kwan.
Can you turn the camera a little bit? Just reel the whole thing.
Which way?
So I can, yeah.
Ye Dusatin Ye Khatusak Leka Kenach Enach Miliha Aya Aksai Katan Nach Khatsati Yaniri Aya Dakanuku Kaskan Ye Dusan Dakanuku Disingwan Haynes Junction Territory Aya Yeti.
Okay. Chish.
Sleepkraag inach Tim Holly. Tlingit inach Squid. Yelkra Deslin Kwan so Hanaki.
Chiefs. My name is Jay Sigurchuk. I am a Yupik Eskimo. I come from Scammon Bay. My Yupik name is Chanach. I do not have a Tlingit name. And my experience with Tlingit is I've only know a little bit of language. I did the first Tlingit class, and that's just that's all I know about Tlingit.
Oyan, Chish.
Kikakwen, Yukat Duasak, Glitka Henach Danielle, Yeknach Hutsati, Ganach Tati, Hutsati. My name is Danielle. My Tlingit name is Kikakwen. I'm from the Raven House. My something is Ganach Tati. I am from the Frog House. I am a raven. I'm from Haynes.
Sometimes the English is hard. You know why I teach Tlingit linguistics? I cannot speak English. Like towards the end of the class, I'm just like, this doesn't work.
Yeah, I know things. Good teach.
My name is Jasmine. My Tlingit name is Poopcleach. I'm a Chukanadi Eagle. My roots are from Huna, and I grew up in Pelican. And I have this last semester of Tlingit behind me, and a little bit of culture camp with Herman and Davis. That's
Okay. Ha. Ahwasa gunas chish away to cut you han. Kone aya akhsayi. Telqa qinaq qa'a kone. Suka khati away uhan. Qut dakh. Yidu sauka ani. Auk aya ade butlaqas. Ihki dakh. Ya akhish. Yupik away akhish. Du get qa'a. Hasu wasa kagwantam. Skanda u. Yedu wasaugan. Tekach enach tim twitcher. Yakutan aya hanak mugu. Akla dukla de kinach sati. Uhansu de kina. Hadas away uhansu. Ye hit ye do a sock hanaka hiti. Talk away. What Cajun hit tin woosh has would the ye kiji hit. Ye hit dech a hearty hit. Ye shook aya ye yati a. Shkakwich ye hat kutati. Bashka aksagi. Punachudach. Kay the segu atunach woodly atude would the kinye yai dach. Khone ye do so ye. Decha achji would se do ani kaudenuk. Kuch edach kawe marks game. Shkakwe aya khat hasu wasa. Ach de kina sai aya ejam. Ach klar du ik away. Ach sai tu. Tlingit du chatangish du chaltunuch. Ach yeti een. Ach de tan. Tlingit du chatangi. Kanach. Yes, Nisquain, Kartu Yakea Dan. Kashilti Haslingit Yokatangi, Yatlingit Yokatangi Tunach. A joyach to us a good Yatlingit Daya, you ach, just the ach nuch. Aka tel Kasaki, Jahad the Se Guyach. Kashilti Idachaya Tlingit Yokatangi. Yakunach away. Hachuch. Hashish kohas. Ajoy has to us a go. Ach eight has a wach. Yeah, away. Kachis so to us a go shinky diocatan. What ya beep by gook, gook. Yeah, away, gook. Think it telephone, yeah, waka. Yeah, the cut you han. Ushkanach with the art hayuchatan gida. Ajoy had to us a go hatut aya. Yeah, away. Take his son Yachaya Hashish go has had to day away. Has a wati hayuchatan. Take pa. Just yuchatan, take yuchatan, take yuchatan. Aka away tan yach away. Wait tan. Kanachti dishkashnik away tan. Kakits awa. Ya tan shitsi ayat de kusti. Ako ad diklish you eat the she yakits awa. Et today you take a sani. Kajit guhik. Ka kun kawanik. Ya hashingit yogatangi chishugu awake you take a sani. Tashadach wutlets is. Tashadach aya. Yakich. Ya away hashingit yogatangi. And cheesh. Thank you guys for coming, for gathering around our language. It's always a special time for me when we're getting together and just learning. We're learning together. I'm a student of the language. My name is Khune, but in English it's Khune. I was just waiting all day for it. And anyways, we're Shuka Khadi from the Haines area. We migrated there on a northward migration from a place called Duncan Canal quite a while ago, 500 years maybe. Yekit is the name of our clan house. They put it together when they started moving. They moved all these clan houses together and they built this one big one. Still standing, still there in Haines. I was born in Skagway. My name comes from Dry Bay. When Raven popped out of that whale. I have another name, De'ani Kaudanuk, which was given to me by my uncle Johnny. His sisters, Nora and Florence, who I call the Marks Gang. I have a Haida name, Ijao. We're Haida through my mother's mother. She was born in Waterfall, Alaska. My father's Yupik, and he's from Akyat, but he mostly grew up in Takatna. And when he got together with my mom, the Kagwantan brought him in, because that would be my mother, his ex-wife. Her father's father's father was Kagwantan. His name was Skandu. He walked away from us last summer. Let's see. Away Gushtihin Tadu Ish away. My first teacher was Gushtihin, is my mother's father. He used to like to laugh at me all the time. I try not to laugh at students, although I always want to be like my grandpa, but I'm like, maybe I won't laugh at people so much. But he was a really fun guy to learn from. Tlingit is not difficult. It isn't. especially if you're speaking Tlingit all the time, you're just really pushing yourself to be in Tlingit, to be surrounded by Tlingit. And it's not hard to make the sounds. It's not hard to put the grammar together. You know, it's complex. People can master complex things. The goal this semester is to just keep working on fluency. We're going to spend these first 3 weeks, you know, because there's only one class next week, and we'll just, you know, figure out how things are working with everybody on the phone, folks online. If you have any problems hearing or seeing or anything, let me know. If you're on the phone or online, I can't always see you. I don't always look at people anyways when I'm teaching. I sort of hunker down into my bunker. So just shout out questions if you have. I'm happy to move in different directions. If your synapses are firing and this thing makes you think of this thing, then let's just go there and talk about it. It's not a problem. We're going to try and do some things that keep us interactive and involved. Some different language things and scenarios and mock dialogues that we can do. And we're going to try to just really, you know, as we convert ourselves to thinking in the language, right? Because one of the dangers is that we're always translating stuff. Translate. And I was talking with a colleague 2 summers ago, and she said, you know, I feel like I'm getting it, but sometimes I'm listening to speakers, and all of a sudden I can't understand it anymore. And we were talking, and I said, you know, you've got to stop translating. Stop translating. Because you're always like, oh, what does that mean in English? What does that mean? And I think you start doing that so you can get a reference point. But then at some point, you give yourself over to that Tlingit world, thinking in Tlingit, responding in Tlingit, staying in Tlingit. And you can find yourself maneuvering a lot easier. And as far as mistakes happen, mistakes are part of learning. You know, so when kids are learning any language, we don't like point out their mistakes. You know, and I don't know, we were driving in a car, and I was with 2 poets, and one of them was raising her kid in Spanish, and you know, and her husband's raising him in English. And at some point, she sort of complained. She legitimately was upset that he's dangling his modifiers. You know, and then we just started laughing. We're like, yeah, it's just silly. But you know, children in language, they start to get it. And what we find is we just sort of correct what they say, and we don't necessarily point out the ins and outs. And maybe if you have some linguistics sort of in your background, you might sort of explain to a child why things are one way, not the other. And our goal here is to, by the end of this semester, we'll have retired the entire beginning Tlingit book. We'll have gone through that entire thing. We'll explain the variety of resources that are out there for you as language learners. It's a really exciting time. You can have dictionaries on your phone. You can have, you know, what we used to carry around, and what also did not exist, you can have everything in one pocket. It's just pretty amazing to me. And you can search these dictionaries, you can look stuff up so fast. And really, you should learn how to use these tools and learn when those tools should be employed, and when you should just sort of set stuff down and just try to engage in the language without necessarily relying on a lot of writing papers and other things. But, you know, I had an uncle, and he would tell me things, and I was like, oh, okay. And I'd start writing it down. He'd say, don't write it down. We don't write things down. So then I wouldn't. Then he'd look away and I'd write it down really fast. I'm fine. Whatever helps you learn, that's what we're going to use here. Any questions?
When you're referring to the beginning workbook, what is that you're referring to?
Yeah, so on there's a website, tlingit.info. On there, under resources, and also there's a tab called Learning Tlingit, and then there's a tab underneath that called Beginning Tlingit, and there's a workbook on it. And I could print one for you if you want. It's about 108 pages, I think. And it just takes all of the lessons from Beginning Tlingit with a few other things added. But it adds lots of pictures, so we've got lots of pictures to go through. And I'll put it on the screen when we start going through that workbook. I'll be sharing my screen for those of you online. Otherwise, just try to follow. I think this is the most recent version that's online. So if our page numbers aren't aligning, we'll try and figure that out. Anything else? Okay, so we're going to start with just basic pronunciation practice, just some sound practice, get us back into the rhythm of learning. I'm going to put this on the screen. This is from the beginning Tlingit workbook. Move this form. Okay. So this is on page 3. So starting on page 3, we're going to start with vowels. Okay. And the basic difference between vowels, consonants. Anybody tell me that?
You breathe vowels instead of spoken ones, or like differently?
Well, yeah, so you're breathing. When you're making vowels, you're breathing. But what you generally have is uninterrupted airflow, right? So there's nothing there to stop the airflow. And then what you're doing is you're using your vocal cords in your mouth to make some certain sounds. Now, as far as when we're speaking Tlingit, everybody say the word cat. Cat.
Cat.
Bat.
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 That vowel does not exist in Tlingit, so stop saying that vowel. So some people, and I do this sometimes, like the word at-oo. Sometimes people say at-oo because they see at and they say, oh, at, like the word at in English. So there's a sound, that's in English that is not in Tlingit. There's another. I was telling my daughter, I only speak Tlingit to my daughters, and we were talking about Santa Claus, which I'm torn because I want to just rip down the mythology of it. We're Sami on my father's side as well. I'm like, that's a Sami medicine man. They stole that from us. I told her that last year. I didn't tell her that this year. She's getting into the more, I believe it sort of phase. Hey, you guys, how's it going?
This is mine.
Hey, Neishia. How's it going?
Good. I mean, okay.
Hey. I saw you poke your head in here, but then you retreated.
I was scared to disturb class.
Never be scared. Come on, sit in. Come on.
That's the knee.
I'm gonna go back over to
Our language is not scary. The rapids are scary. Kushtaqa are scary. I was grading papers a couple years ago, and I was here until like 2 a.m. I'm like grading papers. And the last paper of the last class I had to grade ended with this excellent Kushtaqa story. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, it was pitch black, and my car was like at the far side of the parking lot. And I ran all the way there, terrified that monsters were going to eat. Okay, so back to vowels. Oh, so this is what I told so this year is what I told. Question Sunday, I guess Sunday class. Hey, what's the question? Get away, who? Kayak, yet yet the Zay Katusha. And it was just, I was so proud of myself. I make dumb jokes, that's what I do. I said, maybe Santa Claus is your paternal uncle. From Sandy Claus. And I said, maybe he's Tlingit. I said, he looks white, he's got a white beard and white hair. But I heard him say, ho, ho, ho. So I changed the rhythm of it so it sounds like, because that letter O, that's the only time that sound is made. Oh, it's in ho, ho. And as far as what that's used for, sometimes if somebody thanks you, you might say ho, ho. It's just like a quick acknowledgement, or it comes at the end of a thanks to say, I am really thankful. The other way that it's used is if you stand up to speak, and what you're saying, what you're communicating, this moment is very important. You might say, ho, 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 ho. Then you start to speak. It's almost like you're pushing out some air It's a spiritual process to, that one of the last speeches, the last speech that Walter Sokolov gave at Celebration, which I think you can still find online. I'll bring it in here, maybe Wednesday, and we'll listen to it, and you can hear him start his speech with that very old way of speaking. So, vowels. Let's start with vowels. Vowels are in pairs. It's really important to remember the relationship of these pairs. It goes back and forth between long and short. And there are some instances where it could go either way. If it's a suffix at the end of a word, like you could say, yeah, we'll do that. No. So let's say the word tuss. We're going to say tuss.
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 That's the way they tuss.
Thread.
Thread, right? So if you're saying my thread, you'd say tussie. And now that it could say tussie, so it's kind of long, or tussie, and it could be short. So if it's a suffix at the end, it could be long or short. It doesn't really matter. You go either way, whatever you prefer. When we get into verb roots, which we're going to start looking at, how those verb roots change, it can move back and forth between long and short, and it can do so in a very regular and predictable manner. The other thing that happens as we build compound words is they tend to get short and they kind of flatten out. So we'll look at some different things like that this semester. We'll start taking a closer look at how the language moves around when you start manipulating the language a little bit, and things just start changing. Okay, so let's go through this. We're not going to, and there's also, high tone and low tone, very important. In honesty, for me, the vowels were harder than the consonants. It took me a long time to be able to say certain consonants, and that might be the case. But the vowels are still more tricky to remember which ones are high, which ones are low, which ones are long, which ones are short. If I stand up to speak and I know there's fluent speakers there, I tend to get nervous, and then I end up talking like super fast, and then I just end up shortening everything. That's sort of one of the things I try to pay attention to. You should always be paying attention to yourself as a learner, but you should always, make sure you're staying positive. You're on a path, and that path isn't something that you should always be reflecting on and measuring necessarily. Occasional self-reflection and evaluation is good, but keep yourself in the boat. Okay, so we're not going to do a high tone. We'll just do back and forth between long and short. So starting with the A's, an A on its own, to the double A. Can we close the door? Sheesh. And when you see the letter E, its counterpart is EI. And we just keep these things in mind. We'll take a look at the inland writing system a little bit later and see how going back and forth it's not that difficult. I'm not the most excited person in the world about having two writing systems. That's what we have. And we can learn both of them. They're fantastic resources in both writing systems. So the E to the EI, A, 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 A. Coming to the I, the double E, 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 E. Now the U to the double O. O. Ooh. O. Ooh. O. Ooh. O. there's two ways you can put what we call a sonorant ending on a vowel. It can round or it can pull back. So when you see the W at the end, that means your lips are rounded at the end. And when we get to like suffixes and other things, we're going to see how important this is. You have rounded endings and non-rounded endings. The basic is it affects what the suffix is going to be. For example, you'd say ye for my cup. You'd say gaw for my drum. So it's going to be an I or a U. The thing that dictates it is whether it's rounded at the end. So for these rounded endings, we have ow,
Ow.
ow,
Ow.
and with the Y, I,
I.
for the E, ew,
Ew.
ew,
Ew.
and with the Y at the end of that, E,
E.
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 So with that E-E-Y, it's like you're saying the E sound and you're smiling at the same time, or grimacing, whichever it is, right? So with the W, that means the lips go forward. With the Y, that means the lips pull back. And that's at the end of the vowel. Okay? Not just with every word. And then ooh,
Ooh.
ooh,
Ooh.
All right. You okay? Go 15 more minutes, and we'll take a break. So again, our goal with this is to look at the letter so that when we see that letter later on, we know how to say that letter. And also, if we hear things, the thing we're going to practice this semester as well is if I said a word, wak, you should be able to spell that pretty accurately by the end of this semester. These words. And and it's just a matter of getting those sounds out. At the clan conference, when was that, last year? How come I can't remember? They had the first ever Tlingit spelling bee, so that was pretty fun. Maybe we'll do something like that. Just prepare yourself. All right, so you're looking at the letter. You're also thinking about that word, and you're not thinking about the English equivalent. You're thinking about that image. Right, so when you see that thing in the world, you think about it. Because one thing we're learning, when we start learning Tlingit, like here's a bunch of nouns, right? But what we're learning, asayi aya, shtutu, shetahili at Tlingit kach, tuchagudach, Tlingit sahu aya hastu kach, aya kutzati. Your Tlingit ani kach away shetahini at Tlingit yuchatangi hasaya ach, zisko. Cisco, Kuwakan, Yesh, Ank, has Ausaku Hayu Hatangi. Kana has to Tawasaku, has to Kasanko Ayawasaku. When you're learning these, you're not just learning a noun, you're not just learning, that's what this is, that's what this is. It's not like you're learning all these labels. You're learning the names for a lot of these things, especially these things that have been here a long, long time. You're entering into a relationship that's over 10,000 years old with a lot of these things. All of these stories we have that things out there understand the Tlingit language. And I've seen this. I've seen people who have taught, we had a meeting out on the beach out here where we brought these kids out. I was sitting with an elder, King Reisti, and we were watching, I was like, that's a wait. What's up there on the water? Dasa you. Saga. Kingistiya wakakak. Cheech away. I said, what's out there? Is that a seal? And he says, no, it's a porpoise. And they're jumping. We're watching them jump. Sun was shining, shimmering off the water. These kids came and our goal was to just introduce them to some Tlingit. At one point, King Kaisti said, we're watching these porpoises. Let me see if I can, they were jumping earlier, let me see if I can get them to jump again. Anyat kusani, anyat kusani. He says, we saw you showing your faces. Would you jump again for these kids? Boom, you start jumping. Boom, boom, boom. So as we're learning these things, it's important that you're internalizing these concepts. This is what they know themselves as. This is what, this is a relationship. Learning the names of these things. And some of them are new, Wasus, or near 10,000 years ago. You can't prove it. Cookie cow. Okay, so I'll say it. You repeat. Wasus.
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 Masus.
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 In Tesla, they have an M. In a lot of places where there's a W. But it has to be that true W, like in the perfected. So they might say, Amdagan, when the sun is shining. So the Masus is in there. Yeah, it's a good example maybe of where it might change to an M. So put a Canadian flag on there. I was sitting with Sam Johnston. We're telling silly stories in Tlingit, which is very fun. If you have someone with a really good sense of humor, it's really fun to do stuff like that. I said, Wasus. What's the call Wasus? Ya Wakab. Ooh. Eight Kadach Wasus Koa. Ooh. It's pretty silly, have fun. But we really want to learn these dialect differences, how Tlingit functions, and how we can, if we go south, how is the Tlingit different? If we go to Yakutat, how is the Tlingit different? If we go to Teslin, how is the Tlingit different? And I think a lot of the old time, they're fascinated by it, differences in language. And sometimes it's a different word for the same thing, or sometimes that word means something different somewhere else. And sometimes it's just a slight pronunciation. Cheech.
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 Eat.
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 Da.
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 Glade.
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 Zaid.
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 And that one could be ladder, stairs, boardwalk. Something to do with the sequence of boards that are put together. Janmu.
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 Yauqtat qa'a haski khayaqa. Jinmu. Jinmu.
Jinmu.
Jinmu.
Jinmu.
Jinmu.
Jinmu.
Jinmu.
Jinmu.
That was it, Nick? So this sound chart, it starts at the front of the mouth and works your way back. Sloosh, 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 shoog,
Shoog.
shoog,
Shoog.
shoog,
Shoog.
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 So this is the area where sometimes we encounter some challenges. With the first one, it's a sound, a lot of times people call it the Indian L. In Tlingit, there's no l, that sound does not exist, that actual L sound in English. It exists in Haida. Haida has both of them. They have this L and the English L, or whatever we call it. There was a couple speakers, Sally Hopkins, I think, and my great-grandfather, Bert Dennis, wherever there was an N, they would say an English L. So I was listening, and first time I ever listened to my great grandpa, I was super emotional about the whole thing, and I was crying. I was like, "This is my great grandpa." And then, because I never got to know him. He died a little bit before I was born. But then I was just like, what's going on? Because he said, because he wanted what I would say would be uhanaya, shukach ati. Us, the shukach ati. He says, uhalaya, shukach ati. Right, so it was a really interesting thing. And so Nora, she was pretty young, and she's recording him, and he's talking about this place called Tanani, which is in Haines. It's where the tank farm is. It's jumping fish land. And he's just talking and thinking, Ta'ali aya. And then Nora goes, Tanani ke? And he goes, Ta'ali. Right? So it's like, it was just so interesting to listen to. So, but this sound, just to review,
La.
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 So you see where your tongue goes right behind your teeth? Put your tongue there, relax your cheeks, blow out the sides, and you get. When it comes to making the sounds in Tlingit, the best thing you can do is sort of power through. Don't apologize. There's no need to apologize right now. You're learning. It's not like you should just suddenly say, I'm going to learn Tlingit, and then you're just fluent and you make all the sound. Be aware, it's not like it shouldn't hinder you, but you should be aware, this is something I should be working on, practicing. And the thing about learning Tlingit is you just have to try it all the time, everywhere you go. It happens to me all the time. Somebody looks at me because I'm just, I don't even realize, I just talk to myself all the time. But I was reading an interview with the speaker, and she was the last fluent speaker of her language, and she said, I talk to everything, and nothing talks to me. And so we don't want to get to that point, but you walk around on the land, and even if you're speaking Tlingit, something hears you. You're not just talking to yourself. And so I'm always practicing, sometimes I'm thinking, how would I say this? How would I talk, when I see things? They're building snowmen. I was like, how would you say that? And I had an intermediate Tlingit class, so I walked in and I said, you're making white people? And later I found out he would say, with snow, they're packing together people. But I was just super excited. But you can go around and you can practice these sounds that are sneaky, give you a hard time. But you can also listen to Tlingit a lot. There's a lot that goes on in the subconscious with learning the language. So it's not always this right in the front of your brain type of stuff. This other one, there's two main varieties that I hear. One that really rings out, and one that's a little bit more quick. That's the two ways I've heard this particular sound. The L with an apostrophe.
Does it matter where it comes?
I don't think it does. I've heard fluent speakers who, it's just really, it really comes out like that. I think everybody try and do that. So what you're doing here, the physical act that's going on. The tip of your tongue goes right up behind your teeth. Your tongue kind of flattens out, so like there's a ridge that kind of makes a bit of a seal, and then you squish it.
Yeah.
And the more spit you have on your tongue, the easier generally. You can be quick like that, that's totally fine. And it's like kind of a one side or the other type of thing. Anybody on the left side?
I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, stop, that's what we're here for. Me, it's kind of on the left side. If I try to make it come up the right side. I can't. It's not gonna work. It's not, it doesn't. It's like, I don't know, I'm right-handed. It's the left side. The other way is it's just quicker. And it's coming out both sides right there. So the same thing, you're squishing your tongue, just a little bit more of a quick, decided squish, things come out the sides. But that's what that sound is. And it's an important sound to make. It's an important distinction. We have two, shukach adi, shuknach adi. Right? So there's a big difference between those two. And those two can get easily confused. So we'll go back to this one. Ook. 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 Noosk. 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 So if you got the KW, it's different at the beginning of a word than it is at the end. At the beginning of a word, it's like qua. This is in English, we'll put like a QUA. But if it's at the end, it goes k. So it's basically like you're pursing up your lips and blowing through without your vocal cords. Noosk. Noosk. Seek. 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 Speak. 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 Shaw. 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 Tia. 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 So we're going to take a little break. Before we take a break, nouns. When we look at nouns in Tlingit, there's some that are really, really old. And they're usually just one syllable. Blue, hue, news. The theory that some linguists have who study Tlingit, I think it's a solid theory. Tlingits come to the coast 15,000 years ago or so. These things were here. This is the names that these things have. Who knows where they come from? But then some new animal shows up, and it gets a name, and that name means something. Right? Gandadagugu pecks around the wood. Kindachunate, straight up like an arrow. And then there's certain objects that get names, and they end with ah. And that usually means the one that does something. And oftentimes there's a verb right before it. So T is a verb to chisel something. So this is chiseler, the one that chisels. We'll just keep an eye on that. We'll look at word structure and how the language functions as we keep going. Okay, so 6-minute break. Come back.
I take that as a communication. Well, I can't take Jace with me. Why not? I'll do it. All right. What are you doing here? How many words will we need for our first set?
That's a good question.
Because we're going to basically have one every other week, right?
Yeah. Let's do 7.
I think we overestimated our circles. I was going to be big. I was like, okay, let's go. A little bit smaller.
Yep.
There's not together.
Okay. Cheese. Let's see it. Hello?
Sorry, I just re-added in. I tried to add myself onto the Google Hangout, and I don't think it's working. I could see the live feed, but there's no interaction.
Oh, okay.
Is that normal?
What is your Google screen name?
I Googled you. I think it's just my name. This is Christina. It didn't ask me. Let me see. I'll go to profile. I tried to add you as a friend.
Yeah.
I think.
Did that work?
Yeah, I could see the review. I could set you're on, and I could see the live class.
Okay.
Let me see if I have to do something special. No, it's just asking to start a Hangout.
Oh, okay. Well,
I've never used Google Hangout before.
Try maybe sending me. Or what is your Google email?
My Gmail for school.
Yeah, you have a Gmail account or something?
It's cmbrendivle@alaska.edu.
Oh, a Gmail? Do you have a Gmail account or something?
I do have Gmail, but it's not. When I push Google Plus, it let me do it with my school one.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Because I could see you live. But it doesn't. I mean, I could click on it and watch everything with this, but there's it's like watching YouTube, right?
Yeah, you should be able to interact with it. And so maybe try and start a hangout with me, and then if I see the invitation, I should be able to find you.
Okay, let's see. Let me delete this. I've never had to use Google Hangout. Everything I've ever done did was through through the link. Hold on.
Oh, right.
Okay. It says Hangout, say hi. Let's see.
Oh, there it is.
Sorry.
Okay, I see it. Okay, now let me try to add you to the conversation.
It's not there. Anything going on? Well, don't make it obvious. He smiled at me. Josie, you're gonna take me. Sorry.
You smell all that. You'll get tired.
So you were throwing at me. Did you make it? Oh, did I like it?
Almost. Do you know who made those posters over there on the wall?
I don't.
They're all Cynthia.
They are.
Yeah.
I know that they come out of a school district. They call it District 51. So they come out of BC.
Okay, yeah.
And so they're Tsimshian, they call it Tsimshian seasonal round pictures, and I think they were using them to teach language. And we'll do some things with those. Yeah, just let me know, Christine, if you receive an invitation.
Will it come in my email?
It should pop up in your email or in your Gmail.
Okay, I'll let you know. If not, I'll just continue to watch it.
Okay.
Okay.
There's only one that had a signed name on it.
What's that?
There was only one that had a signed name on it.
Oh.
It said Edward Brown.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yep. Oh. Yeah, that's what it's for. I said. One 30, 11:30, 20. And then, I don't know, Tuesday, Thursday. No, it's just. Text you. Yeah, Monday, Wednesday. You can see this right now. I'll be in class.
Interesting. All right, is everybody doing okay? Everybody online? Everybody okay? Everybody not doing okay? You're not okay? You panicking? All right, let me pull this thing back. Oops. Okay. Back to our pronunciation chart. We ended on Tia. Say Sue.
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 Now, for some people that is butterfly, others that is moth. I've heard moth, so that's what I went with. There's another word for, there's two other words I know for butterfly. It's really interesting in Tlingit because when you get into lots of little insects and little birds, there gets to be a little bit of confusion sometimes about the names and which ones are specifically which. And a lot of little plants as well. If anyone's into sort of biology, there's some good work to be done to sort of really iron these things out. There's another word for butterfly, which is kasha. And then there's another one, kadikikahi, mold on a person's coffin. That name is awesome. Okay, back to the top. E. 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 So instead of doing that, squishing the L out the sides, we get a much quicker launch out the front. Saw.
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 Tsatsi.
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 Now this one, there are some communities that don't use that one. There's a contracted form of it. It's TS apostrophe high tone I, TS apostrophe K apostrophe W. It's a contracted form of it. There, I think Tsatsi is just a bird that's kind of bigger than like a fist. I don't know. It's big. And then Tsitsk has all the little birds. That's how it kind of works for me. And there are a lot of names for a lot of different birds. That would be another thing. We're going to do some different things here. Like, what has a wish to quiet what he at would the kin at the egg was up. So let's say there's no class on Monday, but there's class on Wednesday. So I'd like you to do memorize as many names of birds as you can. Many as you can. Just look up birds. This is your chance to dive into the Dictionary of Tlingit. If you don't have the Dictionary of Tlingit on you, you get it online. Go to tlingit.info, click under Resources. You can also find it on Sea Alaska Heritage Institute website. They're very generous in making this available online for free. There's a section in the back, it's organized, the third section is organized by types of birds. So you can look in there. Also on tlingit.info is the Interior Dictionary of Tlingit. I think it's called the Tlingit Noun Dictionary. That one also has a section on birds. There's probably a few more birds than the dictionary. So what we'll do on Wednesday when we first get here and we get everybody plugged in, so we're going to go around the room and name as many birds as we can without repeating any of them. Anybody wants penguin? Here it is. There you go. The duck that flies through the water. Okay. Yak.
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 Let's pick. Gooch.
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 Cost.
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 Incheyi.
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 So what is, when we have the apostrophe after a consonant, what are you doing differently when you make that consonant?
You're stopping it short.
Stopping it short? What else? Yeah, we call it a pinched consonant. Yeah. What's going on different when you're saying it?
You're stopping the airflow?
Yes, you are not using your lungs. Sealing your lungs off, you are turning your neck into a piston that is making that sound, right? So when we make just a regular K sound. So there's a little bit of a buildup of air, and then the air gets released. But you're breathing. You can feel it. If you put your hand in front of your mouth, you can feel that. Now, the second one, you can make that sound if you just made it on its own without using your lungs. And this is something to just keep in mind as we get to more of these consonants that are like that. Khasha.
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 When we see that X without an underline, make sure we're not going. Right, with the underline, we get that guttural ringing sound. Without the underline, this is the sound that the wind makes. It's the sound that the cappuccino machine makes. Khasha.
Khasha.
So that's the thing that, what?
Saws.
The thing that saws or cuts. Khasha. So we got that cappuccino machine on, and then we turn it off. So what is going on here? When you make this K sound, your tongue is kind of bunching up and forming this ridge. You gotta have a little bit of spit on your tongue to get that together. You get plenty of spit on there when you want to do the X thing. That's how you get that sort of scrapey sort of sound. If you can make that sound without breathing, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a deep breath, hold it, make that sound in that location, pushing air with our neck, right? Got any water? Take a little drink of water. That's just a sound to practice. That is a good one to practice. It gets tricky for folks who are stomach. Question. 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 The thing that stabs, right? But it's also the thing, gwash is to hit something as well, or to ring a bell. Bing. Sing. On Quayi. 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 And that Quayi is a marker on the land. Yak. 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 Quat. 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 Zisk. 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 Khwasta. 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 Gah. 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 I have a colleague who was watching me do sound practice one time, and I noticed if there was a W at the end, I was rounding a little bit too soon, so instead of ya, I would say yow. So it had this ow sound on it. So if we see that rounding, we just wait until the end. Khwan, 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 khwan. Z, 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 Z. So now we're getting into the back of the throat territory. There's this thing back there, we call it nuti. 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 It's the swallower that helps you swallow. That's that thing back there. So to practice sort of activating that thing, it's easier if you're looking up, when you're practicing this sound, and you pretend that you're drinking water. You ever pretend to drink water? That's what this sound is. That same sound, a little nuti. It's doing a little bit of work for you. So you get coach, 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 cuck, 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 A taste. 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 Hot. 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 On. 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 Are you okay with those?
Yes.
Koina.
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 Kwan.
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 Wipes or mops. And the verb for that is qoo. Qoo. There are certain things when I get to verb stems and how they work, but stems that end with an AA or an OO, like you say kwasaku. Is that, how do we translate that?
I know.
I know, right? If you say I'm beginning to know, yan chasquain, that's the same verb, ku. But sometimes if it gets something on the end of it, it changes to quain. And goo could change to gwain. And qoo could change to quain. When we get to verb roots and how they work, we'll start looking at some of those things. Naq.
No.
Naq.
No.
Naq.
No.
Naq.
No.
Qat.
Quat.
Qat.
Quat.
Qat.
Quat.
Qat.
Quat.
Slay.
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 If you're in Haines and you go to Chilkoot and you're looking out at Chilkoot Lake, right hand side there's a mountain. That mountain is called Tlingit.
Slay.
Tlingit.
Slay.
Tlingit.
Slay.
It's this exact word putting a K apostrophe on it. The little red stem. It's the name of that mountain. Shanachwayi.
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 In Carcross, we call this one Shenhua.
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 Duhun.
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 That is a male's older brother. And we'll get into kinship this semester, but we'll do the kinship game again. It's tremendously confusing and fun. So we'll have fun with it again. Quad.
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 Nech.
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 Yana eight.
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 Hit.
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 Dasaya. All right. Everybody okay? Any questions? Anything on your mind? Okay. So now we're going to get into a question and answer sort of drill with these second set of words. We're reviewing what we did last semester. I'm going to do this for the first few classes just to get us back into the rhythm. There is a speech, shkate, akho ashati wo awe shkate. Khan kaushani gadat taqasti. Dukhita khaya shingich dukhatun. Chukin Shah, Hunakawa, where she had to cook away the nation. The hunt aya, the hunt for good news, the hunt for good news, Jean. Oh, Akhwabuz Jadani, Khadawuzi at Hakosti, Kahayu Khatangida. Yakona house of Oshakuka Yahayu Khatangi. Did the Chansu Tlingit Khatangi Osaku? Ya Atinach Khatula Ati Katashkiti Ataya Akjibu. Microphone Aya Duhayi. Uin Khawuz. Shkate. Dada Tinach Sahas Yati Yatlingit Yukatungi. Ya Atna Squanky. One Panins. As to Tunda Tani Tunach Klitzi Aya Tlingit Yukatungi Ashtu. Shetahini Atach in Kawani. YouTube Kakawe to Yukatungi. Stikatat. Yata Koa. Gosh. Kagach Yahweh. Yigo Ayahwan. Yitlil Hasha Yik Haspusi Achidat. Yigo Ayahwan. Kone Achtu Aditsa. Yigo Ayahwan. Uhanaya Hashishko Hashastu Itchyan to At. Yigo Ayahwan. The cut Yuhan. So I used to learn a lot of Tlingit from Jessie Johnny's name, Chukin Shah, from Huna. She was living in Sitka at the time. We used to have a lot of fun in Tlingit and just fun in general. She really knew the language. Her granddaughter knows it really well. And I used to visit her all the time, and one time I brought a tape recorder and I just asked her, I said, sometimes Tlingit gets hard for students. What do they need? What do they need to hear in order to keep going? And she gave me a really long speech in Tlingit. And the whole thing is on YouTube. This is before I was using video recorders. It's just an audio recording. My daughters each have one of her names. And it was really neat because her granddaughter came over with her daughters. And one of her daughters has her name. So there were like 3 little Jessie Johnnies running around. It was very fun. And they were all speaking Tlingit with each other. But this was a part of that speech that it was just amazing to sit there and to listen to her say that. And so I use it in a lot of the materials that I distribute. And the idea was putting some of these quotes in there is just grab some inspiration from them. These are people who saw the language shift over the course of their life. That there are really very few speakers, She passed away about a year after I recorded this. And so I waited until the family said they were ready, and then I released the video onto YouTube to a speech on it. So I'd like to do this part a little bit different. So to do a little bit of practice with question and answer, what these 2 things are teaching us when we start with dasaya, dasawe, and we'd say tasaya, tasawe. There's a couple things we're learning. One is how to put basic sentences together. And the second thing is how to use ya and we to talk about where things are. So everybody take your hands and clasp them together right in front of your chest. Say, yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of push them both away so you're looking at something, maybe on the other side of the room, wherever you're at. We. Back in. Yeah.
Yeah.
We.
We.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We.
We.
All right, let me turn the camera on. Hold on. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
We.
We.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We.
We.
So there were 3 senses of space in Tlingit. Anybody remember what they are?
Yeah.
Well, there's these terms within each of these senses of space, right? The first one is, where are things in relation to the speaker, right? So it's always relative to the speaker. And this is where we get, there's 5 terms that we get from here. Ya, he, we, you, ha. Ya, he, we, you, ha. What is ya?
Right here.
It's right here, right? I can grab it, or it's in my hand, right? That is ya. What's he? Yeah,
Can't
so
reach it?
he, it's closer to me than it is to you. It might be like sort of immediately behind me. And I think it's also like it's nearby, but I'm not exactly sure where. Mouse running in the walls. I was staying at our clan house one time, and this kid said, "There's mice in the walls, you can hear them." I think they're trying to scare me. I was like, "Yeah, whatever." I was laying down to go to sleep, and something went boom, 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 across the floor. I just thought, I'm just closing my eyes. I don't know. Monster, giant mouse, whatever. You can destroy me. I'm just going to sleep here. So what is wet? There, right? Yeah, like I got to get up to kind of get there. But it's not like I got to go real far. What is you? Way, yeah, it's outside. I gotta go out the door. But it's anything beyond that as well. It could be the moon. It could be Pluto, Skagway, right? It is far from here. It's over yonder. These also have time references as well. Yeah, it's right now. You, long time from now or long time ago. And we can be anything. What's ha? It's our vicinity, right? This is around all of us. That's why we say ha good. That's why we say yake hati gudi ha day. Hati ah. So they're directional things, and it's important to understand how they work. They're in these sort of 3 different types. Relation to the speaker. Second type is how 2 objects relate to each other, right? So you might have next to, but it has to be next to something. And this is another concept we're going to learn in Tlingit. Sometimes things need to belong to something. Body parts, kinship terms, what we call relational bases. And that works in English too, right? So it says, hey, where's my pencil? Say, on, right? You're like, what? Right? Under. You should just spend a day where you just use these things without tying them to anything. Right? Hey, through. So in Tlingit as well, they need to belong to something. And there's a project that I've been working on with some colleagues to make an updated Tlingit dictionary. If you go to tlingit.info/dictionary, you can see it. It's still in progress. It's maybe 20% done. But something that it's trying to do is to provide a little bit more of a breakdown on how these words. So if you got khasha, it'll show you how what that word actually, what it literally translates to, and then what the English equivalent is. But it's also to, one thing that's a little bit different is instead of, so in the dictionary when you look up mother, it's going to say do tla. Whereas this one's just going to have a longer dash, and it'll just say tla. And then you just know you fill in a pronoun with that. And then we'll talk about how these pronouns kind of work. And the other thing is with these relational bases. Khant, khan is next to, right? Ak is beside. And we'll talk about these and how they function, especially when we get into intermediate Tlingit and stuff. We'll really take a good look at how these function. There's how things relate to the speaker, how two things relate to each other, and then there's the third one. What's the third one?
Isn't it in relation to the shore?
Yeah, how things relate to the shore, where the ocean meets the land. So you can go from the inland to the ocean, from the ocean to the inland, from the ocean, from the shore out to sea, from the sea to the shore. And then there's like up high, above, down below. But they're all relative to this sort of fixed point, even if that point sort of moves around. It is still sort of a fixed point. So when we start getting into dasaya and dasawe and stuff like that, this is what we're focusing on. We're starting to figure out how these things work. So we've got ya and we. So for this next part, does everybody have this? Anybody not have this handout yet? Especially online. Does anybody not have it yet? Is anybody on the phone? Is anybody in the room?
We have it, Lance.
Okay, you guys have it?
I have it.
I printed out, Lance.
Okay, and it's Cheesh. All right, so we're on page 15. And this is what I like to do. We're going to go around the room, and you are just going to say the name of this thing. And so let's do this just for a while. I'll say it. And so what we did with this first, with the sound practice, is everybody repeated after me. So for this one, we'll just do one at a time. So I'll say it, and then you say it, and then I will say da, sawe. That's what it's da sawe. And you'll say whatever it is plus away. So for this example, you and I are talking, and we're pointing at something that's away from us. So we're not going to use aya or dasaya. We're going to use dasawe. So for example, I'll say atdaye, and you will say atdaye.
Away.
Just the first time, just say atdaye, and then I'll say dasawe, and then you'll say atdaye away. Okay? Atdaye,
Atdaye.
dasawe.
Atdaye away.
Okay. Tas,
Tas,
dasawe.
tas away.
Okay. Oops. Shawat,
Shawat.
dasawe.
Shawat away.
Dasawe.
Away.
Ichte,
Ifte,
oops. Ichte,
ifte,
dasawe.
ifte away.
Te,
Te,
dasawe.
te away.
Let's go first. Let's go, what do we do? Sitka, do you first? Say. All right, Sitka on the phone. Teresa, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. So it'll be your turn. Saved.
Baked.
Dasawe.
Baked away.
Okay. Yecht uchta.
Sheyi.
Dasawe.
Sheyi away.
And then Yauk Dot, whoever wants to go first. Digitya,
Digidya.
Dasawe,
Digidya away.
Hit,
Hit.
Dasawe.
Hit away.
For those of you who are online, I was pointing even when it was your guys' turn, and you guys can't see me because the camera's not on. So I think that we went all the way around. Dasawe, Keys, Dasawe,
Keys away.
Nukshiyan,
Nukshian,
Dasawe,
Nukshian away.
Good,
Good.
Dasawe,
Good away.
Wushyaye,
Wushyaye.
Dasawe,
Wushyaye away.
Una,
Una.
Dasawe.
Una away.
What did I do? The tick is gone, right?
No.
Teresa?
No, Teresa's in Ketchikan. Teresa, what's Kashtin? Is that right?
What?
Okay. Kashtin eat poaha. Yai.
Yay.
Dasawe.
Yay. Away.
Okay. Yek uchta. Yao.
Yo.
Dasawe.
Yo. Away.
And who went first? In Yakutat? Awoo. Oops, let me turn the page. E. Dasawe.
Away.
See you.
See you.
Dasawe.
See you. Away.
Okay, so now we'll shift it up a little bit. I'll say Dasawe, and in this imaginary exercise, you are holding the fort, so you will say Aya instead of away. Nu. Dasawe.
New Aya.
Okay. Yana 8.
Yana 8.
Dasawe.
Yana 8. Aya.
Yak.
Ya.
Dasawe.
Ya. Ya.
Saknain.
Shaknin.
Dasawe.
Shaknin. Aya.
Cheech.
Cheech.
Dasawe.
Cheech. Aya.
Dumb joke a year ago was we did Cheech, and someone said, like Cheech and Chong. I said, no, that's high tone. Oh. Whose turn is it? Da. Da. So we. There's a way you could say, what is that around the erm? Toss away, da away. I think you could say that, but I think I just confused myself. Okay, Kashtin, iit koaha, gao,
Go.
das away.
Go. Aya.
Okay, yet uchta, hin, das away.
Hin. Aya.
And kawuch, jinwu, das away.
Aya.
Kakain,
Cocaine.
das away.
Cocaine. Aya.
Okay, so now for this round, I will just say das away, and you'll just say what it is. Das away. Mm-hmm. No, I'm not going to say the word.
Okay.
No. Because now we'll just see how we're doing as far as
Okay.
looking at, reading.
News. Aya.
Dasaway.
Sakaya.
Dasaway.
Shaw. Aya.
Dasaway.
Iya. Aya.
Dasaway.
Wakus. Aya.
Dasaway.
Wak. Aya.
A. And it's cheese. Jijin tak tak tak. So this is on the page. Huh? Sakudzi? Did we get a sakudzi? Sakudzi. I was sitting at a kuyi with a friend, and like this seriously happened. Seriously. Someone said shakutzi, and he's like, you know, that's so overused. That's just overused. That's such an overused word. And then somebody said something, he went, shakutzi. I was like, seriously? It's like, that's so cliche. And it's like, so we're going to talk about how particles get put together in Tlingit. We're looking at this particle. Everybody say, So if you've ever been somewhere where somebody gets a Tlingit name, they would say that name. Like if we were naming that cow came in here, we're like, cow, we're going to make you Tlingit. And we put some money on it. And we'd say, wasus, That on the end is what we call a focus particle. What it does is it says, pull your attention to this particular thing that's being said. And a lot of ways it's used is you might say, goodness, cheesh, goodness, cheesh, and that's just putting a little extra emphasis. Really, thank you, right? And this is what we get when we have aya, awe, ahe, ayu. And these little particles have special functions in Tlingit, especially awe. That is one of the most useful words in Tlingit. So as you're learning how to speak Tlingit and as you sort of engage in opportunities to use the language, and in English, when you're trying to think of something, you go, well, right? You get these things that just sort of buy you some time. Learn how to use those in Tlingit. As you're sort of putting the phrases together, or if you're particularly nervous. Hang on a second. You just bought yourself a couple seconds to just sort of sit and put it together. And the way that that word also works, it's high-toned A, W, high-toned E. If we're all sitting around speaking Tlingit, and let's say you're speaking, and then you started to speak, and then there was this quiet point where I said, and that's saying, I want to talk. Or if I'm saying something, and I say, that means I'm still talking. I'm just pausing. There's another one, H-A-A-W. Gashtin, your chief, use this one in the recordings I would listen to. He'd be just talking and say, how? And then he would just keep talking. It's just ways to say it. I'm going to pause and collect my thoughts for a second, and then keep talking. There's another one. Turn the camera off for a second. And we'll wrap up with this, and we'll come back Wednesday. So everybody put your 2 fingers right here at the base of your throat. And you can really feel how things vibrate there. And say, sa,
Sa.
sa,
Sa.
sa,
Sa.
sa,
Sa.
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 That's a body part. That's the name of this thing right here. Sa. And you don't see it used that often as far as just a body part. But you're going to see it in lots of things. Like you say, saccade is the word for a bib. Because it's sa, ka, ut. The thing that sits on top of there. The thing on top of the sun. And that's what you'd also call a dancing bib. You know, people will put beadwork and stuff on. Saka'at is a little bit different, and it's a necktie. Sadai, the thing that comes, the thing that warms up around the neck, and that's the word for scarf. Tlingit Inaksa. Say it in Tlingit. So it's also this particle that's somewhat of a command. We're commanding somebody to say something. And that's why you say dasaya. So that word sa pairs with all these other little particles. Dasa, wasa, kunsa, gusa. So we'll look at how it works to put different words together. So to close out today, everybody put your hand in front of you.
Hello?
I think it
Is she
stopped
having-
translating.
Oh,
Oh.
well, I guess we'll have to watch the end of it online tomorrow. Have a good night.
Yeah, take care. Didn't quite.
谢谢。
Schichten.